sicha, so it might take a little bit longer, but we'll start. Okay. Chelek Aleph, sicha beis. The kesher lamakas orev sheivia kodesh baruch al Mitzrayim, concerning the makeh of orev, which, as we know, orev means a mixture, but it means that David sent a mixture of wild animals to roam around Mitzrayim and with biting and killing, etc. So concerning that makeh that David brought on Mitzrayim, the super Parshas, the Torah tells us in this week's Parsha, Shakadosh Baruch Hu tziva l'Moshe l'parei Hashem commanded Moshe to say to Parei like this: If you're not going to send out my nation, so the literal translation, as it would seem, mashliach would mean send. But as we'll see in Rashi, mashliach here doesn't mean send. Mashliach b'cho means I'm going to entice on you as ha'orev, the mixture. And they're going to fill the houses of Mitzrayim. The Orev is going to fill the houses of Mitzrayim, and also the land which is on it, which means that there will be a big mixture of wild animals. And they're going to go roam around and do what wild animals do. They're going to bite and kill. This is the Pasuk. Rashi in his commentary, Rashi quotes these two words from the Pasuk. Mashliach b'cho, what do these two words mean? It means megare b'cho, that I will entice on you. B'chein, Rashi adds a raya that this is the pshat from a different place. The Pasuk says, "V'shem behemoth ach shalabom Parshas Azinu." It says, the tooth of behemoths, of animals, I will send to you. There it also doesn't mean send. There it means entice. Loshen shisui. In Siter Balaz, in French, whatever it's called in Siter. It's Loshen Shisu. Now, the word Shisu is another word for enticing. Mikare B'cho is enticing and Shisu is enticing. But I just want to mention, and it's negated to the sicha later, that the word Shisu means a harsher, a worse enticement than the word Megare. Megare is one level and Shisu another level. That's what Rashi says here. That when it says Mashliach B'cho means to entice. Over Parshas Kavanose, the Parshas, what is Rashi trying to tell us? The Vaera wants to explain that over here the word mashliach is not sending. In this pasuk itself, it starts off if there it means if you're not going to send them. So there it means sending, but the word here mashliach b'cho is not that. Elo shum loshen girui. It's loshen enticing. Al derech al tizgo rabam ketzav. Where do we find the word girui in another pasuk that's later on, dvarim, which means enticed. The kamat yukim achichem pirush zeh, and a few diyukim forces Rashi to tell us that the pshat is not sending, but enticing. Why? Number one, if it means sending, just like the beginning of the pasuk, you should say, same, I will send. What's the yud there? Mashliach. That's number one. So assume that's not sending. Another thing, base. If it would mean Loshen sending, it would rather say instead of Mashliach b'cho es ha'orev, it would say Mashliach es ha'orev b'cho. Why? That's Zaysameres. It means Hanishlach. If you say I'm sending, first you say the one you're sending or whatever you're sending, and then you say to whom it's being sent. Like later it says, I'm going to send all my plagues in your heart. So he says first what he's going to send, and then he says to what he's going to send. If it's enticement, then the word becho goes together with mashliach, means becho is not just telling you to whom it's going to go. That's an expression. When you say entice, I'm going to entice on you. So the on you is part of the enticement. But later, not only in you, the enticement will happen. We say that megarabe means you entice in him the chayiro, the animal kadem or something like that. So if it would mean sending, it would say mashliach es ha'orei b'cho. If it says mashliach b'cho, asimin, that's part of the enticement. So it means enticing. Gimel. Ima moving the shlichus, if it would mean the lotion of shlichus, masim lemer mashliach lecha, sending to you. Mashliach elecha, also to you. Le mashliach becha, send on you, in you. If it's enticing, yeah, I'm enticing you. That's the way we speak. So that's three rayas, three reasons why Rashi learns that it means enticing. And because of the second and third reasons, so Rashi, therefore Rashi, in the Dibra Maschel, he also quotes the word bicha. After whom a farish raktevis mashliach. Rashi is just teaching here, what does the word mashliach mean? And Rashi, the way the Rebbe learns always, Rashi only quotes from the posik, the Dibra Maschel, the words which are negated to the pshat. If Rashi is just teaching what the word mashliach means, he should have just quoted the word mashliach and say megare. He says, he quotes mashliach b'cho and he teaches megare b'cho. He should have just quoted the word mashliach and teach megare. Why does he quote the word b'cho? That's part of what is machriach, because the Rebbe always learns that Rashi quotes in the Dibra Maschel or a word that is the kasha, part of the kasha, or it's a word that's negated to the pshat that Rashi says. So here it's negated to the pshat. Rashi says megare, mashliach means megare. What part of the raya that it means megare, not send, is from the word b'cho. Sign number 2, sign number 3. It says megare, mashliach b'cho, not mashliach is order b'cho. And the second one, it says b'cho, not l'cho. So from that is a raya. So Kaponim, we understand why Rashi learns the way he learns. It makes sense in Pshuta Shel Nikra. Why he learns doesn't mean sending, it means enticing. But we have to understand in this Rashi. Number 1. When he brings a raya from another place, that it means enticing, why does he go to Parshas? Why doesn't he bring to something earlier, which is in Parsha B'chukesai? There it says, which seems the same thing. I'm going to send to you the animals of the field and send. It also means entice. And when you have a raya from an earlier pasuk or later pasuk, you always go to the earlier one. Why skip that and go to the next one? So why does Rashi not bring the pasuk b'chukesai? The Yeser Yuksha, the kasha is even stronger. Not only is it because it comes first, but it would make more sense to bring this pasuk from a different reason. The makas ore by order we're talking about it is an enticing animal, chayes. And Parshas also talks about chayes. Parshas Hazinu, it talks about behemoths. So it's not such a big kasha, but lopel, if you have two choices, why not bring a choice of a posik which is closer to the posik that you're trying to explain? So why? So for two reasons. Or first of all, it's earlier, and second of all, it fits more to the teich. The second kasha. After Rashi says that it's from the lotion of enticing, why does Rashi have to add after that? He says it means megare, and then he brings that ayah from the posik, and then he adds again lotion shisui. What's he adding lotion shisui? He already said megare. She'ein leimed she'balotion shisui kavanos levayru lefaresh megare. You could say maybe Rashi writes the word megare, but he's afraid maybe people don't know what megare means. So he translates it and he says megare means shisu. You can't say that. Key number 1, teva shisu eina yedua mavenes l'talmid yeser tevis megare. The person is learning a talmid. He doesn't know the word shisu, what the word shisu means better than megare. Adarabe, megare ubita nimse kamen pomim chum shatei. The word megare is written in the Torah a few times. Ve'et sheloshen shisu eina nimtsa asapam b'chumash. The word shisu is not even once in chumash. It's a word in lashon kodesh, but not in chumash. So why would Rashi think that megare person doesn't know and he has to translate megare and shisu? That's number 1. And the second thing, the fizeh, if he's just explaining what megare means, he should have written the word loshen shisu right after the word megare and translate shisu. And then bring the raya from the other pasuk. What Rashi does is different. He says megare, brings the raya from the other pasuk in Hazinu, and then he goes back to loshen shisu. If he just wants to use loshen shisu to translate megare, he would say right away. And the third thing, If Rashi says Megara, and then he wants to teach what Megara means is Shisui, Chatchila use the word Shisui. Teach is that what does Mashliach B'cha mean? Meshasa B'cha. Why would he write Megara and thinking that people don't know what it means, and then he'll add the word Shisui? So for all these reasons, it can't be that he's translating. So why does he write first Megara and then Loshen Shisui? You can't answer that by adding these words, Loshen Shisui is trying to be medayik something. That's like this. That even though the real translation of the word mashliach in itself is Megara, wants to say the taich of the word is Megara. But I'm telling you that in this case it was more than Megara. It was Loshen Shisui. The lefi zeh, you can't say it because according to that, Adain kosher bezanal. The second kasher from before is still shver. He should have said the word Loshen Shisui right after the word Megara. The same way he asked that on the previous shot, he's asking here also. If you're going to say that he's trying to tell us that here it was another level, a higher level, a stronger level of enticement, so as soon as he says Megara, he should Loshen Shisui. Why does he in middle put in the posik from Parshas Azinu? The other kasha, how does Rashi know that? Rashi means that, how does Rashi know? If the posik Mashliach could be Megara, how does Rashi know to say in this case it wasn't Megara, it was worse, it was Shisui? So you can't say Rashi is just trying to say that it was Megara, and it was really more than Megara, Loshen Shisui, for these quick questions. Right. Rashi continues in this shot. He quotes from the posik the words Es ha'orev, Mafarish, and he teaches us, what's Es ha'orev? All kinds of chayas, wild chayas, snakes and scorpions, mixed up. And they were destroying them, they were hurting them. Then Rashi continues. There's a reason in Agadat, in Chazal. What's the reason for every makkah? Why did they bring this makkah and then this makkah? And he gives the reason. In the plans, the way kings, when they wage war, they go in the Seder of the way it works, in the Seder of the Malchus, the way they fight a war. David was fighting here a war with Mitzrayim, similar to the way the regular wars are fought. What is the regular style? When you besiege a city, first you ruin the wells, the water supply. Then you blow shofar and you scream the yarim around to scare them, or the vahalam to mix them up. So the same thing here. So the second makkah was tzvadeya. The tzvadim mekarkirim v'humin, they make noises, all kinds of noises, similar to the second stage in a war where they make noise and they sing. Rashi says, like it says, this is the next piece of Rashi. So the Rebbe says we have to understand it. Number one, Rashi takes this from the Medrash. Rashi changes the Lashon a little bit. The Medrash Yeshnam in the Geil Haminish of Makis Eruv Orev Beis Deis. In Medrash there are two opinions. What was this Makis Orev? One opinion is show you Dubim Arayas from the Morim, bears, lions, and leopards. Beis. The second opinion is show you Tzorin V'Tushim. These insects that fly and insects. That was order. The reason why Rashi doesn't specify which animals were in this makkah of Orev, like the first opinion, which it says it was bears, lions, and leopards. Simple reason why Rashi doesn't. Rashi is enough when he says Chayas Rois, that's a general title. Especially that in simple pshat, where do we see these three? So Rashi says it was wild animals. Rashi doesn't have to say that. Certainly Rashi can't learn like the second opinion that there were these flies, insects, bees, spiders, all these insects. That we understand also why Rashi can say. The Medrash itself says why that opinion is not so poshut. And it says like this. By Tzvadim it says the Tzvadim died. They died and they stay there and they stunk up the whole city, the whole country. Why did the Abish not care if they died? Because they have no use from it. It only is a problem. Aval Orev show Yahanoah Beir saying Orev, where you could use their skin, even if they would all die, you could use their skin. Lefirach leinisha behem adechot. That's for one, not even one was left. Sheilo Yitzrin v'Yitush noilem sheyasrichu. But if the Orev was made of these insects, of these flies, then it's just like Svardeya. Then we'd have a kasha. The kasha is, why did the Orev not die, but they should make them disappear? So if you learn it was animals, we understand why Medrash says. Because they shouldn't have no use of the skin. But if it was these insects, why didn't they die? So that's a raya that there wasn't insects. So we understand why Rashi doesn't bring it. Rashi says like the Medrash, that prat, that Rashi says, Rashi says that Orev did not die like the Tzfadim for the same reason. Because he didn't want him to have an from the skins. So that makes sure that you can't learn the pshat that it was these flies, these insects, because it doesn't fit to the fact that they die, that they had to disappear and not die. So that we understand why he doesn't bring the names of the like the first pshat, the names of what animals they were, and why he doesn't learn that they were these flies, these insects. But the fact that after Rashi says the word that they were chayes royes, Rashi adds on the choshim v'akrabim. It was snakes and scorpions. That's ain't a movement. That's not understood. Im bepashta orev who you call me nechayes rois kela gam nechoshim v'akrabim. If a mixture of many animals includes betzim, and animals means all kinds of animals, including snakes and scorpions. In kiloma leilafarta. Why does Rashi specify? Just like the Rashi doesn't specify other animals, why should he specify snakes and scorpions? If it's part of it automatically. It doesn't say what the chayes rois are, what animals were. So why does he specify this if it's part of that group? The Parshas snakes and scorpions are not included in the chayes rois. That's why he says it's separate. He says chayes rois, and then he says snakes and scorpions because they're not included. So the question is, how does Rashi know that it was nechoshim v'akrabim? If it's included, monish it. If it's included, he doesn't have to say it. If it's not included, he also shouldn't say it because who says they were? Where did he get it from? That's one kasha on Rashi. The second kasha on this Rashi. Why in this posuk Rashi decided to ask and answer why if the Seder Amakis was in this order? Why did he say it? Ask it here. Even if if Al Pipshat, you have to understand there needs a reason why he brought these makis. So you should have said in the earlier makis. We've gotten the first makis. Why were these makis brought and why in this order? Why did he wait till the fourth maki orev? That he decided to say, why was the Seder in the makis? What's up is here? So Yashmer Forshim, some explain Shabasholas Makis are Shenet Lei Hutzrach Rasha Levaeras Taimon. Some of Forshim say that in these first three Makis, Rasha had no reason to explain didn't have to explain the reason. Because it's self-understood from what it says before. What does it say? The first two, Damet Svardeya, we understand. We have already a reason from before why they were the first ones. Because they were there to punish the Avodah Zarah of Mitzrayim. The Avodah Zarah of Mitzrayim was the river. And they both have a shaykhs to the river. Okay, Mefurish Rashi. Rashi says by Gab Makas Dam, Mitzrayim Eidim Nilus, and the Mitzrayim worshipped the Nilus. The Fichar Hilke Asirosa. That's why first he punished their Avodah Zarah, the river which is the Nilus. And then he hit them. So there we understand why this is the first market. Because the first thing you do is you punish their Avodah Zarah. The Gamba Makas Svardeya Reksi V'Shorat Hayed Svardim. By Svardeya also it says that the frogs came from the Yair. So also it's part of the punishment of the Yair. The Gamba Rashi says that this was a punishment for the Avodah Zarah, for the Yair. Rashi says that since the Yair protected Moshe Rabbeinu when he was put into the basket, that's why the Yair was not punished through him. Leib bedam v'leib tzfadim, not with the blood, not with tzfadim, because it says in Chumash, that who did Abish say should hit the Nilus? So the Dam will come and the Tzfadim will come. Aaron should do it. So that's just why it's not Moshe, because Moshe shouldn't do it because he was protected by the Yair. So we see that both Makkahs have to do with the Yair. So the Yair we know is Avodah Zarah of Mitzrayim. So the first one was to punish Avodah Zarah. So the Tzvadei is also a Makkah for the Yair. But that's not first, but second. And the Shalei also Mamash Shulkas Al Yoda. Because by the second Makkah, it wasn't the Yair itself that was punished. It was something that comes from the Yair. So the first one was the Yair itself. The water itself was changed down. The second one is that Sfadeya, what comes from Yair, also was punished. So it's a second Madrege. That's what came after Dam. So the first two, they say Rashi doesn't have to explain why that came first and second. But the third Makkah Kinim, we also the reason why it came, we could see from the inyan of the Parsha. When that came, that's when the magicians admitted that this is the finger of Hashem. So the Eibusha wanted to do something to show that it's from Hashem. When Rasha came now to Makkah Sorah, Rasha has a kasha. Why is this Makkah? That's why he gives the reason, because it followed the seder of the way you wage war. This pshat is not understood at all. And I mentioned many times, I'll mention it again. The Rebbe never liked to use the word like klal. Usually, I remember when we used to write a word, this ain't a moving klal, he used to cross out the klal. Took out the word legamre. He didn't like this word. Don't go to extreme. If the Rebbe does write klal, you know it's kasha. So this pshat that we said, the reason for the first three makkahs is not understood at all. Klal. Number one. According to what they said, is why does Rashi say it here? Because he's interested to explain why Makkah's Orif came. The other three he didn't have to explain because we have reasons, and this he came to explain why the Makkah's Orif, the fourth Makkah came. If so, the pale, what does he bring? It follows the Seder of Muhammad, and he explains the first and the second. First you do the water, you ruin the water, and then you make the noise. And he didn't say anything about Makkah's Orif. He says at the end it's in Tanchum, and there if you look, you'll find it. The Feirish is a time the Feirish, he brings the reason for Makkah's Dam and Makkah's Svadeya. But that's according to that shot, that's not what he's trying to tell us. That we know from before. Why? So he's trying to explain Makkah's Orif, and then that he didn't say. The second thing, Leidik is on the other hand. The Svaras HaMaforshim Anal B'Pirish Rashi, according to the pshat of the those Maforshim, Shetameim Shel Gimel Makkahs Reshenim Yidu Mepshutim, that the reason for the first three is known and it's simple. That's why over there Rashi never asked why, because we know the reason for the three. So why did Rashi change his mind? What did Rashi do here? So before we said Rashi relies on the other three reasons. That's why it's not shver. And now he's looking for the reason of Orev. And he changed his shot from the first two. He gives now different reasons. He gives the reason for the two makkahs for a different reason, because that's the way you wage war. So if he relies on those reasons, that's why he didn't ask it. So why all of a sudden he brings it and says the opposite? So the first kasha is, he doesn't say anything about Orev. The second kasha is, by the first three, he says a different shot. And Gimel, the third shaila is, if he pirish now, according to this pshat, the whole reason why Rashi brings this is to explain Makkah's Orif. That's the behind the show. According to that pshat, Rashi is going to explain a new thing now. Why did the Eibusha bring Makkah's Orif? But it has nothing to do to the first part of Rashi, that Orif means a mixture of all the animals and what is. But you do a klal, we know the klal, the rule, the place where Rashi explains Beis in Yonim Nifrodim. No, a klal, if Rashi wants to explain a few separate inyonim, when you get a word or a few words in the parsha, then he quotes in Dibra Maskel, makes a new Dibra Maskel, and re-quotes the posik again, before every inyan. In other words, if Rashi puts in the same Dibur HaMaschel, two inyonim, they must have a hemshech. Okay, the Lil, the Makas Fadeya, like look back, Makas Fadeya, Shemaitik Tevis Ati Redapam. Rashi explains Ati means to ask. Rashi says two things there. So Rashi quotes from the Posik twice. First he quotes the Posik and then he explains one thing, then he quotes another thing. According to that, Kamba needing to down, Hoyle the Rashi Laitik Esa Orev Edapam, but they lachalik, but lenient. So here too, after he explains Esa Orev, what it means that the animals, the mixture of animals, he should have finished that Rashi. And then bring the Posik again, Esa Orev, and say, if the pshat is right, he's going to explain the reason for Orev. He should have quoted the word Esa Orev and explained Loma Komako Make. A third shaila, Betam the Makas Dam, maybe Rashi Rakas Hamoshel. Concerning Dam, Rashi doesn't explain why he brought Dam. He just says in the Moshel is the way kings wage war. There he said the first thing is that they ruin the water supply. And Rashi doesn't tell you that the same thing is here, that the water changed the dam. The Blila has in the Nimshel, which is the case of Makas Dam, he doesn't say. Makas Svardeya, who makes him by Svardeya, which is similar to the second thing that they do by war when they blow the shofars and make noise. There Rashi explains how it's negated to us. The Tzvardim also make that noise. Why by Dam he didn't fear, just like over there by the kings they ruin the supply of water. Here, they Abishter made Dam. He doesn't say those words. He just said what they do there. But Tzvardeya, he did. Just like they make noise, the Abishter made Tzvardeya for noise. Dalet. You could see there are 6 kashas here on this shot. That's what the Rebbe said. Ain't a moving cloud. It's push it not. Fourth kasha. From the fact that Rasha starts off here, that there's a reason in Agode. Agode is mean the Agode from Chazal. That the reason why the Makas came in disorder. So since Rashi, if it would be simple pshat and posig, Rashi wouldn't say it's Agode. Since he says Agode, right, it's not Pshuta Shemikra. U'chure, Aritam zeh Shakadosh Baruch b'tachsisim l'chometz chule bo aleim hu'inyan ha'mesiyasha gam b'pashtus mevav shel ha'mikra. This is a simple pshat. This idea that the Eibusher followed the order of a war, that's a lot of sense. That's not Agade. That you can learn a simple pshat. Why does Rashi write that this is Agade? Hey. Why does Rashi end up by saying, as it says in Medrash Tanchumen? Rashi usually, not his derech to refer where he took his pshat from, the Makir, in Leib unless this, quoting the source helps you understand this pasuk. So what do we gain here by knowing that this is all in Tanchumen? Also, why did Rashi divide it into 2 parts? In the beginning, he says there's a reason in Agode, which is basically Medrash. And he finishes off again, like it says Medrash. Why does he make it in 2 things? He should have included it together and started. We'd have the time in Medrash and we'd know it's Tanchumen. Why does Rashi make it 2 things? And the 6th shaila is, Rashi in this Dibur HaMaschel, in this piece, explains what the word Orev is. Then he explains why did he bring Orev. According to them, Rashi is explaining why it's Orev. The first 3 we know, but why Orev? So Rashi should have just quoted the word Orev. Why the word Esa Orev? So he should have said Ha'orev and explained these 2 things. Why does he say yes? It's all if the second part of Rashi is to explain why Orev. So it's not the gate to S. Abir calls it. So we have so many kashas here. Now, so long sicha, and there's going to be a lot of protim here, so we have to halt up. Abir calls that the explanation is going to take very long, I see. Every makkah, side the one before Orev, side the ones after Orev, what punishment is of that makkah is very obvious, very clear. How do we know it? Or if you look in the warning words that Pare was told before the makkah, those not every makkah had a warning before. So those makkahs where there's no warning, it's understood in the words of Hashem to Moshe, when he told him do this and this, to bring the makkah. So from that we knew what the makkah is. What is that? What's the teichen? It means like this. Before it actually says the makkah came, we know what is going to be. Whether when we see what Moshe said at the party, he told him what he's going to do, clearly what it is, or from the words of David to Moshe. But before it says that it happened, we know what it is. When the Eibishter warned, it says only I'm enticing on you the orev. What's the orev mean? The mixture. That's orev. And the house of Mitzrayim be full of this mixture and also the land. It didn't say what orev is. Orev means a mixture. Arvuvia shoma, a mixture of what? How does that punish them? A mixture of what? Doesn't say what. And then why is that a punishment? If you bring a mixture, I'm going to mix up certain things. So big deal. How's it a punishment? And here we don't know what it is. That forces Rasha to say that Shevetevas Mashliach B'cho Mudgeshes Mehusa Shel Makizu Prenusa. It must be, Rasha says it in these words, Mashliach B'cho Es Ha'orev, that contains what this Maki is going to be. Because it's otherwise we don't know what it is. Since from everything that's continued, we understand. We know one thing is going to be a mixture. And a mixture of something that will reach all over. It'll be all over. You in the Mitzrayim, in the Adama. Lochem Pirish Rasha, that's what Rasha says. Mashliach b'cho megare b'cho. Mashliach b'cho means I will entice. That means that the word mashliach means entice, that we already know. Based on what we said before, that mashliach doesn't mean sending. Mashliach means enticing. If mashliach is enticing and it says the mixture, now start thinking, what is it? What is the mixture? It's self-understood. Who do you entice? Animals. So if since the word mashliach must mean enticing, and it says mashliach the orev, a mixture, I'm enticing a mixture. What it could be? Animals. And when we entice an animal, what do they? If you entice them, you get them angry, you get them to roam around or run around, they're going to bite, they're going to kill. So just from the words mashliach b'cho es ha'orev, we know what it is. We know it's a mixture of animals and how it's a punishment. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, David is going to entice a lot of animals in a mixture, and they're going to bite and destroy the Mitzrayim. Okay, now we know that. So we know what the orev is. Now we see an interesting thing here, that what the Torah does, it tells us the makkah. Now the only word that the Torah says beferish, what's the makkah, is the mixture. Even though we understand from the posik, pshuta shemikra, that means a mixture of animals. But Lapel, the Torah only picked out to mention the word the mixture. The kola protish b'makkah from all other details. But actually, Parshas the Torah doesn't even mention the main thing, that it's chayes. Now we know that from the posik, from the word mashliach, but not from the word. That's not, in other words, not beferish. It doesn't say beferish in the Torah that it's going to be animals. The only thing that says beferish is that it'll be a mixture. The reason the Torah says that mixture, to tell us that there is something here that you would not know otherwise. And that's why the Torah mentions Dafkedis. For who? What is that? The main nes and the main chidush in the fact that the animals came, that's the main nes. The main nes is that all kinds of chayes come mixture, which is not normal. Obviously, wasn't such a big nes, something special in the other protim of this, that the animals came. The main nes, the main abnormal thing here was it was a mixture. Being Cain, Mukhrach Leimer, if we're going to say that, you have to say Shirak Chayas Hoya Be'er B'lei Behemis. So we have to say only Chayas, not Behemis. Behemis are domestic animals. Chayas are wild animals. So since the Torah doesn't mention that the animals came, only Arvuvia, and the only way the Torah says is, I'm going to entice you, so it must be Chayas, not Behemoth. The Im Gam Behemoth Bo B'Shchisu V'Chuluk Chayas. If this case was that even the behemoths, the domestic animals, also came running and destroyed, that's a big chidush in this makkah. Because of it, and from the pasuk is mashman that there was no other main nisim. If behemoths came, it's a big ness. The Torah says the main ness is that they came, a whole bunch of animals came together. The fact that they were biting, that's not a ness. But the behemoths would come, that would be a ness. So the Torah should have mentioned that there were behemoths. But that will make a sakasha. If the only ones that were there were chayas, which destroy anyway, so why did the Eibush have to entice them? There's nothing to entice. Animals, if you let them loose, they're going to bite anyway. So if it be behemoths, the Eibush have to entice them. But like this, the imbog, to be also famous, you have to entice them. If they should destroy the opposite of their nature. Like chayas, wild animals, that's a teva. That's why to answer the shaila, Rasha says the word shisui. What he means is, even though the pshat of mashliach is megara, is girui, which is enticement, a simple level of enticement. That's a touch of the word. We understand there could be levels in how you entice. Yes, girui stam, there's a regular enticement which you don't have to do anything. The chayas have it themselves. And yes, girui chozak anikra shisui. Then there's a stronger enticement which is called shisui. Shemegarin is a chayas sheyaziku. The take of godel yesem that they should entice, they should bite and do more than normal. That's enticement. Here, since we're talking about chayas, wild animals, so we have to say here it was more than by chayas. They pushed the sentence. There was a stronger. There was shisui. But you can't consider that a ness against the nature, because if it would be, the kasha comes back. So why didn't the Torah mention that ness? It's not a real ness. They bite anyway. They destroy anyway. Elamai is stronger, so the Torah didn't mention it, but it is a chidush above of what normal they would do. That's what Rashi brings, that ayah dafke from this pasuk, not the pasuk in Parshas B'chakesai, where the pasuk says, the Rebbe asked in the beginning, he says, "V'ishlachti bechem es chayas hasodeh." Why? First Rashi is like this: Mashliach means megara, entice. That is a raya only from a pasuk that talks about payments. See, the kasha in the beginning was, if he's bringing a pasuk, why doesn't he bring a pasuk of chayas, which fits more here? But yeah, Rashi wants to bring that it means enticement. Where do we know that it is? Because by payment, it's an enticement. Shabom shaykh ikirin nagir. To really entice and to get them angry is more by payments. On their own, they don't destroy. So first Rashi says it's girui. That's a taish mashliach. Arayah mashliach is girui. We find over there by payments is arayat music. Well, after he explained what the inyan that was the inyan that taish of mashliach. Rashi adds that in our case, us it was tak enticement, but a stronger enticement. Because if it would be regular, you don't have to do it in the chayis. Now this will explain that this that Rashi says that the word esaorev means kol mina chayas rois mechoshem v'akrabim barbuvia. It means all kinds of wild animals and snakes and scorpions mixed up. Boy, mashchisim and they were destroying them. But Rashi says that ein ikre lafaret mihoyevoret. Rashi's interest, not interest to tell us who was the mixture of. Kizem avuyet afke the tevis mashliach. That we know already. It was animals from the word mashliach, like we said before. So what is Rashi telling us? Ikre bo leimer. What Rashi is trying to tell us, shekavonas akosav a tevis haorev, that the meaning of the possible the word orev, ishabo barvuvia. That's what he says. The main thing is not the words chayes rois nechoshem akrabim. The main thing is arvuvia. He just says who it was. Kol mini chayes rois nechoshem arvuvia. That's the main point of this makkah. Obviously, the they're coming, but the nest of the makkah. See, if wild animals come, it's not such a big nest. You can have sometimes, but they come a lot and they come all mixed up. That's the nest. Since Rashi wants to write that the Orev means it came mixed, so he already writes who they were, all kinds of wild animals, snakes and scorpions. He explains what the Arvuvi was. We still don't know where he gets that was snakes and scorpions. We'll see that in a minute. That's one of the kashas was, if he's explaining what the Orev is, why does he bring the Dibra Maskal, the word S? Now we know that. This adds to what we're saying the whole time, and Rashi is trying to tell us that the main chidush is that they came mixed. And that's from the word S. If that wouldn't be the main chidush. That's a detail of one of the makkahs that they came mixed. But that's not the ikir. How could he say, what am I sending to you? The Orev. What does that mean? This is all I'm going to do. The Orev. That's only from the word S. From the fact that I'm enticing upon you. The S Orev. That proves that this is what the makkah is all about, the nest. So this adds to what we said before, that the main nest is the Orev, because the Torah says it, but the word S adds to it. So the main nest is the Orev, and that's what Rashi is mighty there. Now we understand why Rashi doesn't specify that they were bears, lions, leopards. We have no proof what kind of wild animals were in that area, were in Mitzrayim or around Mitzrayim. So there's no proof that that bears came, lions came, and the leopards came. We don't know. The Rashi said that it was bears, lions, and leopards. Would seem we don't know what's there. So it would mean, if that's what the Eibishter brought, so some of them he would have to bring from someplace far away. But he said, it's another nest. An animal from Africa all the way down would come to Mitzrayim. Rashi doesn't say what. Probably the lions, the animals that were around Mitzrayim. Without explaining which chayas they were, because we don't know which one they were. The Pasha, they were only those that were around that area. So Rashi doesn't say what it is. This will also explain what Rashi says, that you also had snakes and scorpions. Why? The Pasuk finishes off the Gamo Adomo Asher Heim Aleho. And also, let's look back at the Pasuk. The Pasuk says that I'll send that Mashliach B'cho, the Orev, Umoli Botem Mitzrayim, they'll fill up the houses of Mitzrayim, the Orev, the Gamo Adomo Asher Heim Aleho. And also the Adomo, the earth that they're on. What does that mean? Who's on? The earth that who's on it? If the Pasuk would say, the Orev will fill up the bottom Mitzrayim, and also the land that they're on it. Ha'orev hu'ikir because Moli ha'orev, the Pasuk is telling you Orev. Ha'yamokim leimer kehei musav ala ikir ha'orev. So what would be the pshat? The gam adom ashahem aleh. The Orev. The Orev are going to come, and they will fill up the house and the land that they're on. They'll fill up the whole land. He doesn't say Mola ha'orev es bottom Mitzrayim. He says bottom Mitzrayim, the houses of Mitzrayim will be full. As if it would say Mola bottom Mitzrayim es ha'orev v'gam adoma asher abati me'amitzrim mola es ha'orev. It goes on the houses. He says that the bottom Mitzrayim is the Ikeh, so the bottom Mitzrayim, the Orev is going to be full with the Orev and the Adomo that it is on, which goes on the houses or on the people. The Eid Ikeh, another ayah that doesn't go on the Adomo that the Orev is on, but it goes on the Adomo that the houses or the Mitzrayim are on, because Kol Parsha Zu HaOrev V'Loshen Yochid. The whole Parsha Orev is singular. vayove, vesor, vayosar, als, loshen yochi. If it would mean the land that the Orev is on, she would have said Asher Hu Aleh, that he is on. And the Pasuk says that it'll fill the land which they are on, meaning they the houses, or the Mitzrayim. Not only will they fill up the bottom and the houses, it'll fill the ground on which the houses stand, or on which the people stand. What does that mean? The Orev is going to be in the ground. The Orev should be in the ground. How could animals be in? Doesn't make sense. It's against nature. And we're saying there's no other nest here. The other things were natural. The nest was the Arvuvia. But as I say, as Hamutkish, because of Lifnis, it's contradicts what we said before, that there was no extra miracle. The only miracle was the Orev, but not the other things. They have to say with snakes and scorpions. It's natural that they're found inside the pits, inside the holes of underground. We know that already. Even the child who's just starting to learn Chumash, the way the Rebbe learned, remembers everything that he learned. So he learned before. The Pasuk said by Yosef, they threw him into the pit. It had no water. It doesn't have water, but it had snakes and scorpions. Naturally, they're found in the ground. It's not against their nature, but that's not an extraness. But still, Rashi doesn't bring, if Rashi is explaining those words, he should have quoted from the Pasuk the words Gam Adom Hashem Aleo. The Gam Einim Aram Begamer, he doesn't even say the gamer to hint to those words. Like we said, Rashi is not trying to tell us who the animals were. The main thing is talking about Arvuvia. But it tells us they were wild animals. And Rashi has a hechrech, but that's not what he's trying to tell. But the Vaera has a hechrech that there were snakes and scorpions also from the word Hashem Aleh. But he's not being mefarish those words. That's why he doesn't quote it. So we explained the way Rashi, but the inyan, not the word. Till now we explained Pshat in the words. The inyan needs explanation. We said that the main nest here was they came a mixture. What's so special about it? The main nest and chidush in this makkah is that they came by Arvuvia. Why? That's why Rashi continues. The next piece we said is a separate inyan. Where Rashi explains the reason for the makkahs. So it should be a separate piece of Rashi. No, it's a hemshch before. Rashi explains, yes, that in Nagoda we find the reason for every makkah why it came this way. Shadli said, by knowing that, that will explain what's the specialty of Orev. And Rashi says like this, by war they come. And what happens? First they ruin the water. Then they blow, they blow shofar, to destroy, to involve them, to scare them. So the Medrash says, the God says, that same thing, why the second makkah was frogs, because they make a lot of noise. So from here it comes out, from here we see, one of the plans of the Seder in the war, one of the ways of waging a war is making noise to scare people. Oh, now that we know that, so that explains Makasorev. That what? Why did they bring all the animals mixed up? That definitely got them very scared. We see one kind of chayas, people see it, they get scared, but not that much. Many chayas, many kinds, and all mixed up together. Then it's very scary. So that's what Rashi wants to tell us. That the whole nest was, the whole main thing is Arvuvia. What's so special about it? Look in the Medrash. The Medrash says that by Tzfadim, that's what it is. Since Rashi wants to tell us how important it is, the mixture. Lochem maybe Rashi tam zeh shalamakis kan. That's why Rashi brings the reason for the makis here. Ubehem shel mashakos lifnei zeh beisad dibur and behem shel what they wrote in the same piece. Or maybe rak tam shel beis makis eresheni is the only reason first two. Kind rak at latam makis tzvadeya. He started there, but he means to bring the first basically to get to the second. But he didn't go further. Kibeikir lemakim zu mischam Rashi Rabbi medreshe. Rashi meant tafke this makim. That's why Rashi, when he wants to show the nimshal, how the style of war applies to the makis, he doesn't tie truth that why dam. We understand it from what Rashi says, because the first thing you do is spoil the water, but Rashi doesn't refer back to the makis. But that's what he does. When you explain the reason for the tzvadeya, for the tzvadim is to scare them. Oh, so if that's a ninyan in doing, we understand Makas Orev. Still, Rashi has to start off that this is a reason Agode. In Pshat, we asked the Kasha before. In Derech HaPshat, we can understand such a svara. The Eibishter went in the Seder of the way it goes with the war. So why can't this be Pshuta Shomikra? Why does Rashi start this is an Agode? You're doing time in Macherim in Makasela. Goes back to what he said before. In Pshat, we're not looking for this as reasons for the Makis. For the Makis, we know the reason before. But Makis Davet Svardeya, we know what is the reason. Alkas Yeroso, to punish the God. But Makas Kinim, we said before, why? Laharas Achatumim, Shez Balekimi Canal, to show them that it's Hashem's finger. So therefore, Velochem Magdim Rashi, Shitam Zeu Bagod, Rashi, that's not the reason I'm giving Pshat. The reason Agada to be fine. What Rashi's interest is why they brought what the main thing is the mixture. So he says, based on what Agoda says in the reason for the Makis, we'll understand it. This Pshat in the why you brought down Tzvadeya is not a contradiction against Pshat. So Rashi doesn't say that's the Pshat because there's no Hechach in Pshat. But the other three reasons, by Damas Vardeya, for the punishing the God, and by Kinim for the Chatumim, that's something that Pshuta Shlamika tells us. Rashi said it before. So Rashi says, but according to what it says in Agode, one of the things the Makis was, we see by Tzvadeya that it's the noise, that explains why the Arvuvye, the mixture of all these wild animals together, made the main thing. It's not simple, not straight. It's not a real kasha. The next kasha is going to be a kasha, but not a real kasha. When it's a real kasha, Rashi answers it. Sometimes Rashi, when it's a kasha, not a real kasha, but it needs some explanation, Rashi could be merames, beremes. So here Rashi is merames to answer this kasha, not the kasha, but a kasha that we could ask. But what's the kasha? Even though we explained that the fact that it came mixture, that's something that scares them, etc. It's important. So why Oberfort is this the only thing mentioned in the Pasuk? As if saying the fact that they came and they bit and they destroyed, that's not so important. That's a simple. We could see, like we said before, the noise makes it a lot. But that is also a problem. The biting, why does Torah not mention that? That's why Rashi finishes off and says at Emes, he doesn't bring more than the first and the second, because he's trying to bring the Agoda to the second. That's all he needs. But he finishes off, at the end he says, like it says, Medrash Tanchumen. What does he mean? Look in Tanchumen. What do you see there? Shom, there, after he explains the Makis, he says, but the Tzvadim, their noise was worse than the destruction that they did. So we understand. You look there, you'll understand by Orev. That's a very important thing. Kasha is that important more than everything? Yes, it's more than everything. That's why Rashi adds, after he brings the two reasons for Dam and Tzvadeya, he says v'chulu, etc. What's etc.? When he explains the next makis. Why does he say etc.? Rashi is only trying to bring the tzvadeya, but it says later the other makis is not negay at all. So why does Rashi even say b'chulu? Shitaka didn't mean and go ahead and see the rest of the makis. He means what it says further, that their noise was worse than their destruction. But that's what Asher wants to say, and that's why the whole thing is only audit. According to what we're saying, the Rashi, when he brings the medrash, this is not the reason why the makis came. The real reason, that was all derech haga from the Agadah, he says. But the real reason al pipshat is the first three, lahalkes yirosam, to punish the God, ulahares lachatum she'ez b'likimi, to show the magicians that it's a finger of God, yuvan eidinyan. We'll send something else. The Makas Orif Ksiva Chaka, by the Makas Orif it says, after he told him I'll bring an Orif, it says, I'm going to separate Geshen, the place where my nation is living, standing, there the Orif won't be there. That means that there was no Makas Orif by the Eden. The Kasha is, why doesn't it say by the first three Makas it wasn't by the Eden? The movement, if it's self-understood, well, you'd say it's Pashta, the Makas was for the Mitzrayim, why would it be by the Eden? So it's obvious it wasn't by the Eden. Someone do a Mafarsha Kosa b'Makasorim, so my Makasorim does he have to say it? Now, there are many opinions here. Many people don't even know these opinions. The Even Ezra Kasev, the Even Ezra writes like this: If he died to Makas Adam, Vatzvadim, Vakinim, Hoy, Soke, Lelas, Hamitzim, Voivrim. He says these three Makas, Dam, Tzvadei, and Kinim, included the Eden also. What do you mean the Eden? The Yibusha wasn't punishing the Eden, but they weren't so terrible. Like Makas Ha'orev, Shoysa Kosher, from Makas Ha'orev down, that was a terrible Makkah. Hashem Hifrish Ben Amitzim Ben Yisrael. That's when Hashem said the Eden shouldn't get it. But the first three Makkahs, the Eden also had. Omnum Radvaz with Chuvos, the case of the Radvaz writes against the Even Ezra. Umash, a cause of Even Ezra. Ki Makas Adam Vatzvadim Vakinim Oisel Mitzrayim Uli Yisrael. That the Makkah of Dam, Tzvadei, and Kinim was by the Mitzrayim and by the Eden. Also, it's forbidden to believe that. Certainly that Aksuvim made in Leib, the Psukim showed the opposite. The Psukim say, by Dam it says the Mitzrayim could not drink from the river. By Yachpur Mitzrayim, so they dug around the river. So who says, so what does it say? Who couldn't drink? The Eden didn't have to dig around. They were drinking from the water. So the Makkah of Dam wasn't on them. But Tzvadim Ksiv also says, the Tzvadim will come, B'cho, Ba'amecho, you and your nation, the Sora Tzvadim Mcho, and then when it goes away, he says, they're going to go away from you, and Mitecha from your house, and Mevadecha from your servants, and Me'amecha from your nation. So he's talking about the Goyim, Mashmish Le'hoy B'Yisrael, not about the Chena Kinim. Same the Kinim. Yilmet Sosim and Namafurish. Even though it doesn't say Bakini, but it's self-understood, just like those were, and here also were. But Daiti, another thing he says as Svara. He says first, when the Psukim is Mashma, that the first three were by the Eden. We're not by the Eden, sorry. But besides that, I have a Svara, he said. If the Makim is also by the Eden, how would that prove the party have to send the Eden? The whole purpose of the Makim is to make party send the Eden out. If it's by the Eden also, how would that prove to him that the Eden have to go? That it's against him for the benefit of the Eden. But Rambam Mepirish Amashnai's case, the Rambam writes differently. He writes, Makas Dam Tzvadei Elohoi B'Yisrael Klal. Dam Tzvadei were not by the Eden. Hashenke Makas Kinim Hoysagam Bahem, but Kinim was. Avalei Hoy Mitzayra Nesam. They were Kinim, but they didn't hurt him. But they were Kinim. That's what the Rambam learns. Now, this is all good, but the Shaila about Rasha learned. The Kinim Shein Rasha Metaretz Afilu Beremes Hakusha Loma Leinichtav Ifleisi gave him Makas at Shenis. Since Rasha doesn't answer this kasha, why it doesn't say by the other makas that it didn't go to the Eden, why it is by makas Orev, Muchach shows Asher b'pshute shel mikro ya makas Hashem kam Yisrael. Mashmer, since Rasha doesn't say it, Mashmer that it was by the Eden. V'chein nirem mashakosik, it seems from the posik where it says by kinim that he akinom ba'odom ubabhema. The kinim was by a people, odom stam, people and animals. Doesn't say Eden. The Gamein Lamer, Shemakas Kinim Lohoy Mitzayanis, you can't say like the Rambam either, that they had the Makas Kinim, but it didn't hurt them. Kiminolon came where do we get such a thing in Pshat? So Mela according to Rasha, seems like the Makas, the first three were by the Eden also. You've been the Gael, the Kushas Aradvaz, the concerning the Radvash Kasha, Loma Madgish Akosa Mitzrayim, Makas Damet Svardeya. So why does the Pasuk in stress by these makkahs, that like he brought the ayahs, it says the Mitzrayim couldn't drink the water, and by the Tzvadim it says it'll come into you. That's not a kasha. That's what the point of the makkah was. It happened by the Eden, but the point is to go on the Mitzrayim. So the Torah mentions what the point is. So that you could answer. The last kasha is a real kasha. If the makkah happened to the Eden also, what kind of raya would it be that Parah should send away the Eden? The Gam, no V'Shaila. Lama B'emes Hoya Makkah Gam Yisrael. No V'Shaila. Why Takya was the Eden? But why would the Makkahs have to be by the Eden? Now moving based on what we said, the first three, that the real reason in Pshuta Shemikra by the first two is because to punish David the Zorah. And the other one is by the Chatumim, we'll understand it. Since Rashi already said that the first two Makkahs came to punish their God. That we understand. We'll see that his Avodah Zorah is punished. So you'll understand that Eibishter is the Eibishter. The Eibishter is the God. The fact that the Yidden also have it, it's still punishing the Avodah Zorah. It's no problem. It's still punishing the Avodah Zorah. He didn't have it, it's good. He didn't have it, he sees. But it's not against Mitzrayim. It's against to show that he's stronger, that he could change the Avodah Zorah. Based on this reason, it had to be by the Eden also, the water of the Eden. Since this was to punish the Avodah Zorah, so every place where the Avodah Zorah is had to be the Makkah. If there is a place where the Avodah Zorah is not hurt, Pare will think if he'll see that part of the water doesn't get punished, oh, so not my whole God is, a piece of my God is not so good, but there's a piece that's good. Or there's a piece that didn't get punished. So by the dam, it had to be by every place where there is water, which is Avodah Zorah Mitzrayim, had to become dam. The Eden, the Vaera had it, yeah, they didn't have a problem. But the purpose was not to punish a Mitzrayim, the purpose to punish Avodah Zorah Mitzrayim. Vaera is a makas kinim, same by kinim. Since the whole purpose was that the Chatumim, the magician, should see it comes from the Eibishter, the finger of the Eibishter, it had to be a makkah that has no limit. The whole Eretz Mitzrayim had to be all over. If it wouldn't be all over even on the Eden, so you know what they would think? They would say, Shanas al dei mugbolim. They'll say it's not the Eibishter. It happened through people, al dei bnei Adam, people who can't do everything. They could do only some things. They'll say Meish V'Aaron are magicians. Meish Omer b'beis makas Ereshein is like they said in the first Makkah. So they say Meish Rabbeinu did it. They saw that the magicians saw that their magic can bring up the kinim. That means that they're limited; they can't do it. So the Chure Tzarai is Deibishter. No, they would say. Meish brought it, also brought it not all over, a specific area and a specific people. Chatum Mitzrayim couldn't bring it up at all, and they could bring it up 60%. But if there's a place where it's not, that means that this is made through somebody who is mobile to do things. It had to be all over. So they see that this is from the Eibishter. So you see that it's Yad Hashem, they saw because there's no limit to this. When it came to Akas Oreh, there's no reason to do to the Eden. There it says so it shows that according to Rashi, the first three Makkahs talking about by the Eden, and it doesn't take away from what the Makkahs were supposed to accomplish. And by Oreh, the Pasuk says this. But it all fits to the reason, these three things by the first three Makkahs. The Pnimis Yonim, let's try to finish it. By the Pnimis Yonim, Yeshlemer Atam Mashahoya B'Fleisi Davki Makas Oreh. The Pnimis, why is there? The Pasuk say that the separation, and according to Rashi, that's how it actually happened. That the separation between Yidden and Goyim only by Oreh started from Oreh, but not before. Al Pnimis. The Gimel Makas Ereshein is Lohoyim and Atzerich Lahapish from the Yisrael and Mitzrayim. In the first three Makkahs, there was no reason to separate between the Yidden and Mitzrayim. Why? Even if the makis happened on the Eden, no one would think that this should be any indication that the Eden could mix with the Goyim. Why would David gave it to the Eden also good? It doesn't show that you're equal. You could mix. David mix the animals. A person could think it's stupid stuff. Oh, David took away all the borders. He took away the mechitza from one animal to another, snakes, scorpions. The male nifras gama geder ben Yisrael amim lahavdil. The male even might think that now there's no more geder, no more mechitza, no more separation between us. Oh, Chelek Hakadosh Baruch Hu lahares. David wanted to show shamechitza kayem is gam b'show, so that even when in one area the mechitza was taken away, but not in everything, not between Yidden and Goyim. I'm going to separate the place Asher Ami Emedalel, where my nation is. Something to do is I'm going to make the separation. I'm going to salvation for the Yidden, and it'll separate. So here the Torah wants to stress that don't think that the mechitza was taken away. The lesson is simple. I want to say that this sicha was when it was, the Rebbe said in Tov Shalamed Beis, when it was printed, there was Magiyah in Tov Shalamed Gimel. It was the time, the beginning of the height of the Rebbe's war against the Mi Yehudi Gzeira. The Mi Yehudi that you accept in Yisrael Goyim as Yidden. And the Rebbe kept on talking every Farbrengen that you're taking away the mechitza between Yidden and Goyim. So here the Rebbe put this in. That here you see the Eibush took away the mechitza between animals, but not the mechitza between the Yidden and Goyim. So the Yeroi is a time when the world is mixed up. This fits to nowadays also. The time like now, the Rebbe says, which the Gedorim of the world is completely broken, something that was never. Now we need to strengthen the mechitza between Yidden and Goyim. Even then, they were in Mitzrayim before Matan Torah. Before the Rebbe shows us. Because when we say these words, in Shulchan Aruch it says, you have to have in mind Matan Torah. So Matan Torah when David chose us. So this was before Matan Torah. Bizman shoya orev. It was orev, a mixture. For Yemokim Nechshash, there was a possibility of thinking that they might mix Yidden and Goyim. Also, HaKadosh Baruch Hu nes meyuched. David made a separate nes. Losum v'duz v'name bein amcho, to make a separation between Yidden and Goyim. Lachs kama v'kama bizman neinu zeh, certainly now. And this separation has been gay every Yid, not between the good Yidden, the best Yidden, and the Goyim. There were Yidden who didn't want to go out of Mitzrayim. And this Makkah, there was a separation between them and the Goyim. This shows this separation every Yid was a Yid. Because some people were telling anyway, the Freie Yidden anyway. What do we get? The Fruma Yidden are not going to be affected by the fact that in the Israeli law it says, again, it doesn't say the word Kialocha. That's what the Rebbe was fighting. So they said, some people said, who are we afraid? The Fruma Yidden, who cares what they write? Elamai, the Freie Yidden might take it. Who cares about the Freie Yidden? The Rebbe says, here we see, David made this mechitza, Alpines, he made this mechitza between all the Yidden and the Mitzrayim. And all the Yidden included bad Yidden, people who didn't even want to go out of Mitzrayim. And the Yidden will straighten this mechitza, this wall. There will be no wall between David and Yidden. Everyone, every Yid, every man, woman of the Yidden will do tshuva, shleima, complete tshuva. They will be redeemed right away in the Gula Mitzvah Shlema through Mashiach Tzidkenu. If you think back, it went very fast, but if you think back, Darash, and you do it, this is mamish a puzzle that all the pieces fit. It's mamish. Yeah, that's it. Okay.
Thank you.